Hey everyone, how's it going? This is Mr. Watkins talking to you guys from my home. Hey, so we may get some updates next week about what to do and what learning will look like, but in the meantime, I did just want to wrap up our texting and driving unit with just a quick self assessment. You'll find this assignment on Canvas as well as the instructions. So again, I'm just going to briefly kind of go over these instructions. We just completed a unit on motion. We were specifically looking at the system of a distracted driver and determining if a distracted driver would collide with a pedestrian based on the variables of velocity, time of distraction, and reaction time. With this, you guys created an app to kind of make those predictions and determine if there was going to be a collision or not. Having finished all this, I just wanted to see you guys assess your own understanding of the different concepts we've learned in this unit. What you guys are going to see is you guys are going to see a few different graphs here. And I want you guys to just kind of determine from the start of the unit to the end of the unit, how do you feel you were able to either meet or exceed any of these standards over time. We're going to show this by creating either a horizontal, proportional linear, quadratic, or inverse pattern on these graphs. After you graph them, just give a quick explanation of why you described your learning progress with that particular pattern. So for example, let's say for this first graph here, looking at the skill of your ability to recognize patterns from a graphed data set. So that's really meaning, you graph your data. Let's say you get like a pattern which is curving and increasing as it goes to the right, right? Can you determine if that pattern is linear, quadratic, inverse, etc., right? If you're seeing this, seeing a pattern that looks like this, can you identify what that looks like? So really from the start of the unit to now, what would you say your understanding is, right? Would you say at the start of the unit, you kind of got it, and by the end of the unit, it was about the same? Make this a little bit bigger. Is that right? Would you say you kind of had a horizontal pattern from start of unit to end of the unit, right? You didn't really actually increase your understanding. Would you say from the start of the unit, you really could not identify patterns, and by the end of the unit, you're able to kind of meet our standard? So for the most part, you're able to, or you're able to exceed standard, meaning like you can identify a pattern in every single sense. Think back to kind of our warm-ups with those motion graphs and just the last warm-ups we did. Would you say that over time you didn't really get in the beginning, but then as we went further, it made more and more sense? Or would you say at the beginning you really understood it, and then as time went on, you just became less and less adept? So just kind of sketching out your pattern of your understanding. And then down here below, you guys can type out your explanation of why you chose that pattern. Now again, on here, if you're doing the Google Doc version, if you just double click on the graph, it will let you edit and then create your line. If you're on the Microsoft Word version, if you go to insert, look for shapes, okay, and then look for your line or whatever. Okay, so hopefully that makes sense. Just briefly going to kind of talk about the rest of these. All right, so the second graph, your ability to calculate motion. So basically all the math in this unit that we've learned. Again, right, were you starting at the beginning, you didn't know how to calculate anything, and then by the end, you could calculate everything or most things. Maybe you weren't even at meeting standard. It's kind of up to you. This is a self-assessment. Don't forget, you guys can start with a y-intercept. So if you feel like you were not starting from 0, if you're starting from, I kind of already knew what to do, and then I went up to a 4. You could obviously also, if you thought like you know what you're doing from the start and then really just kind of kept at the same level, you could do a horizontal pattern right at the top. Okay, your ability to use spreadsheet apps. So again, we created this app using Google Sheets or Excel. So just talking purely about your ability to create these codes in Excel in Google Sheets, right? So thinking about your skill at the beginning of this unit to now, right? Do you feel like right now you can more or less with instruction create these graphs on your own? Do you feel like you can kind of go above and beyond and do some formatting on your own? You kind of create your own graph of what you think. Do you feel like it made more and more sense over time? You feel you can even do a negative quadratic. You feel like you learned a lot at the beginning and then it kind of tapered off a little bit. So up to you. Okay, and this last one, this really applies to our summative for our unit. Again, if you have not completed the summative, make sure you do that. That is the last item on Canvas right now, besides the self-assessment. So again, your ability to prove with evidence that alert driving is safer than distracted driving. Again, that's a really simple statement, but just being able to show the evidence for that mathematically, right? We were able to do that with an app. So just feeling confident that you can prove that claim with mathematical evidence. Obviously, at the beginning of the unit, probably did not have a solid idea of how to do so. Hopefully by the end of this unit, more so. All right. Again, just seeing the self-assessment will be helpful for me to plan kind of our next few units, and really helpful for me to improve on this unit for next year. I have a few more questions here. This is helpful, and you can answer these in bullet points if you want. What new skills or concepts do you feel you learned in this unit? Again, helpful for me to know, like, what did you actually feel like you learned? Right, in this unit, we focus on patterns found in velocity, acceleration, distance, apply them to texting and driving system. What other problems could we use the skills we gained to solve? So think about, we learned how to calculate motion. We also learned these coding skills for spreadsheets and Excel. Besides the texting and driving scenario, could you solve any other problems using these skills? Again, as always like asking this last question here. Having more or less finished this unit, again, it was condensed just because our time got cut off. It's helpful for me to know what could I have done better to help you, and then what could you have done better to help you learn what we were learning. Again, if you guys have any questions, please email me. I'll be ready to respond whenever, and then try to finish this as soon as you can. I know probably have a little bit of free time. All right, stay safe. I'll talk to you guys all soon.